Welcome to the Red Carpet Movie Review.
Today we're going to review the top 10 movies of 2017. Right here on the red carpet.
Ladies and gentlemen, live from Hollywood, California, welcome to the Red Carpet Review, starring the Showstopper, Shawn Valentino. Also starring Rich Twilling.
Today we review the top 10 movies of 2017.
Live from the red carpet.
Welcome to the Red Carpet Movie Review. Today we're going to review the top 10 movies of 2017. Now, 2017 has been a fascinating year for movies. We saw some great surprises and also some big disappointments. We saw the return of the Star Wars franchise as well as some huge comic book movies. But some of my favorite pictures this year were the ones that not everybody expected to be big hits. And I'll fully admit, I haven't seen all of the big movie releases this year, and I missed a lot of the great independent films that a lot of people are raving about. But today I'm going to go over my top 10 favorite movies of 2017. Now, at number 10 on my list is an origin story of one of the greatest Christmas stories ever told, and one of the most famous works in the history of literature. And that, of course, is Charles Dickens' A Christmas Carol, and the movie is The Man Who Invented Christmas. And I thought this was just a fascinating movie that blended real-life biographical elements of Charles Dickens' life, along with fantasy elements that inspired him to create these characters like Ebenezer Scrooge, and inspired him to create the whole story of A Christmas Carol. And I thought the film brilliantly blended fantasy elements along with autobiographical elements to tell a fascinating story behind the greatest Christmas story ever told. Now, at number 9 on my list is another real-life story based on one of the most tragic incidents in the history of American culture, and that was the Detroit riots, and the movie is Detroit. Now, Detroit was the latest effort by the great Kathryn Bigelow, one of the best directors in Hollywood. I thought she did a wonderful job of blending excellent performances by this ensemble cast of great actors. Beautiful cinematography, has a dark claustrophobic look to it, and it was also just excellent storytelling and making us really care about these characters as they're in the most horrific of circumstances. It was just a brilliantly told movie. It wasn't a very big hit on the big screen, but I hope all of you take the time to watch it on the small screen because it's really one of the best movies of the year and I highly recommend it. And as I said in my movie review of Detroit earlier in the year, it was almost like a real-life manifestation of the Stanford prison experiment, and to see the psychological study in fear and claustrophobia and racial dynamics play out was just absolutely fascinating. I think it had some timeless elements that are relevant to this day in pop culture, and it perfectly blended great acting, excellent storytelling, beautiful cinematography, great plotting, as well as social commentary, and I think it's one of the best movies of the year. And while Detroit featured almost an entirely ensemble cast, the number 8 film in my list featured the world's biggest movie star and probably one of the most famous people on earth, Tom Cruise in American Made. And I thought this was one of the more interesting years in Tom Cruise's legendary career because earlier in the year he gave one of the worst performances he's ever given and probably the worst movie he's ever made in The Mummy. And that might have been the most disappointing movie of the year, given the fact that it starred Cruise, Russell Crowe, and had a huge expectation behind it because it was supposed to launch the Universal Dark Universe. And it turned out to be a big disaster. Thankfully, this universe is going to be left in the dark. But thankfully, being Tom Cruise and being one of the biggest stars in the world, he came back in style with Doug Liman's American Made. And I thought it was just a brilliant film. It was a lot of fun to watch. It was kind of made in the vein of films like Catch Me If You Can, Goodfellas, Wolf of Wall Street. Movies that are very fast-paced, very entertaining, and it featured an excellent performance from Cruise, who was kind of away from his action hero mode. Even though there's a lot of action in this movie, it was the real-life story of Barry Seal, who lived a kind of a stranger-than-fiction story himself. And to see Cruise play this anti-hero in such brilliant fashion, this gorgeous cinematography of these Central American countries, I thought it was just a great movie and one of the more fun movies of the year. And I thought Tom Cruise came back in style from that disaster of The Mummy. And I'm looking forward to the next Mission Impossible in 2018. And interestingly enough, the number 7 movie on my list also featured a little bit of Tom Cruise, and that was the Lego Batman movie, where you saw some scenes from Jerry Maguire. I thought this was just a lot of fun. I think both of the first 2 Lego movies were just brilliantly done. They captured the spirit of the toys. And I think the movie did a brilliant job of blending the source material of Batman and Robin with the Lego franchise. And I thought this was one of the more fun movies of the year. It showcased a lot of different types of pop cultural references, but not done in a contrived fashion. And of course, this is a great movie for kids, being a Lego movie and a Batman movie, but I thought it was made for adults as well because it was very intelligently written and it showcased a lot of witty dialogue, great music, and pop culture references from the last few decades. So this is a movie for all ages, and I thought this might have been the best family picture of 2017. And speaking of family pictures, my number 6 film on my list might be a very controversial choice, even though all of you have probably seen it, and that was The Last Jedi, directed by Rian Johnson. And this was really all about the return of Luke Skywalker, just like The Force Awakens was the return of Star Wars, but mainly the return of Han Solo. So I thought this was just a really fun movie to watch. I know it's very flawed, there was a lot of problems that I had with the movie, but I thought overall they had a lot of incredible cinematography in it. Some of the scenes in this movie were just brilliantly done, including the two moon moment with Luke Skywalker, some of the scenes between Kylo Ren and Daisy Ridley, which really took Star Wars acting to a whole new level. And in my eyes, I thought the good of this movie far outweighed the bad. And some of the scenes with Luke Skywalker and some of those classic Star Wars characters absolutely gave me chills. And based on those great moments alone, I'm going to stay positive and I'm going to put Star Wars The Last Jedi at number 6 on my list. Now, as we started the year, everybody knew they were going to watch Star Wars, but unfortunately not enough people watched the number 5 movie on my list, and that was Before I Fall. And the best way I can describe Before I Fall is it took elements of 2 of the best movies in their respective genres, and that was Mean Girls and Edge of Tomorrow. And I thought it brilliantly weaved tropes from the high school movie genre and the sci-fi genre together, and I thought it was just a brilliantly done film. It's very difficult to write an intelligently written high school movie, and I thought this film did a great job of writing these female characters, which are all very likable, and I found the film to be quite inspiring in the way it delivered its message. I thought it was a very underrated movie that kind of got overlooked, but I definitely highly recommend this movie, and you should definitely check this out in 2018 if you didn't see it on the big screen in 2017. Before I Fall is just a great film. If you like movies like Edge of Tomorrow and Groundhog Day and Mean Girls, you're definitely gonna love this movie, so go check it out. Now, Before I Fall features some great female characters, but definitely the female character of 2017 was my number 4 film on the list, and that's Wonder Woman. And I thought Wonder Woman the movie was probably one of the most inspired comic book movies ever made. I thought it was just beautifully done, incredible direction by Patty Jenkins, especially on the scenes on Amazon Island, which were just gorgeous, beautiful cinematography, lush colors. I thought it was just phenomenal. And best of all were the excellent lead performances by Gal Gadot as well as Chris Pine, who was equally as good as Gadot. And it's the dynamic between these two characters that really makes the film. And that just goes to show that the best superhero films are not so much about the over-the-top action that we saw in Thor as well as Justice League, which I thought were far inferior films to this one. The best superhero movies are the ones that actually take time to build the chemistry between the characters, and I think that Wonder Woman did a brilliant job of this. So when it came to the action sequences, you really cared and were invested with where this story was going. So I thought this was just a brilliant movie, and I highly recommend checking it out, and I'm looking forward to the adventures of Wonder Woman. Now, of course, everybody knew about Wonder Woman coming into this year, but the number 3 film on my list is one of the more overlooked classics of 2017. It's a movie that was just released recently, and it's called All the Money in the World. And this is a story about the kidnapping of Paul Getty, the grandson of J. Paul Getty, the richest man in the world at the time, and the founder of these beautiful museums like the Getty Villa and the Getty Museum in Los Angeles, and of course Getty Oil, which made him the billions of dollars and made him one of the most famous recluses in the world. And I thought this was a near perfect film with great cinematography, beautiful locations, excellent acting, some of the best performances of the year by Christopher Plummer, and even Mark Wahlberg was just fantastic here. And I thought this story was just beautifully told. It combined a mystery with family elements as well as a psychological study of Getty himself. I thought this movie did a fantastic job of replacing Kevin Spacey, who was originally cast in the lead role, with Christopher Plummer, who was just much better. He didn't have the horrible makeup that Spacey showed in the trailers. I guess that was one of the good things that came out of these recent scandals that took place, is we got one of the best movies of 2017, one of the best performances of the year by Christopher Plummer. All the Money in the World might have been one of the big surprises of the year as far as how good the film was, but I think an even bigger surprise was my number 2 film on the list, and that's Get Out by Jordan Peele. And I thought this was just one of the best movies I've ever seen. I talked about Before I Fall, how it combined multiple genres. This movie combined Twilight Zone with a little bit of Guess Who's Coming to Dinner with the Stepford Wives. So it combined sci-fi elements with real-life social issues and racial tensions, and it brilliantly put it together in a very Twilight Zone-like fashion. It was just a brilliant movie, I thought many of the scenes were just intense and uncomfortable to watch, and that's what any good satire should be. It should make you a little bit uneasy, and I thought this movie did a great job with that. I thought the excellent direction by Jordan Peele, great performances all around, and a beautiful, tight story. If you haven't seen Get Out, I highly recommend that you get into your streaming device and check out this film because it's one of the best movies that I've ever seen. And how ironic, because the #1 film on my list is actually the story of one of the worst movies that have ever been made, and that's The Room. And my favorite movie of 2017 was The Disaster Artist. And I thought this movie was just absolutely brilliant. It did a great job of recreating this story of the making of The Room, one of the worst movies of all time, and bringing to life this character of Tommy Wiseau, the enigmatic creator of The Room that nobody really knows anything about. We just know he's a really cryptic, unusual, vampire-like character, and I thought James Franco gave the best performance of the year of bringing Wiseau to life. He doesn't really answer any of his mysteries, but I don't think the film needs to. I thought this movie was just a really fun movie to watch, and it really brought to life the whole creative process of making a movie, especially those that want to work outside of the system. And I thought that's what I really enjoyed about the film, is it really inspires you to want to create your own content. And while I'm saying that, I want to give a special dedication to the director of the movie Rideshare, Tremaine Hayhoe from Hayhoe Studios. Him and I have been creating content for the last couple of years. You guys can check it out online. We made the first Bachelor of the Internet, the Playboy Next Door, and we also created some fun shows like the Over the Top 5, as well as some really cool music videos. Michael Jackson parody videos like Hilly C, which parodied the 2016 election, Black or White, Dirty Donnie, so some really fun stuff. And I want to make sure that all of you check out his debut film coming up this year, Rideshare, the movie about a killer Uber driver. Don't be surprised if you see that in my top 10. It just might be the ride of your life. And just as I said in my review of The Disaster Artist, is how ironic that the making of one of the worst movies of all time becomes the best movie of the year. I wanted to thank you all for joining me on the red carpet in 2017, and hopefully 2018 will be another magical year at the movies. Hope all of you enjoyed this red carpet review of the top 10 movies of 2017. Now we have one of our gorgeous movie experts here. Now what did you think about this red carpet review?
Exactly.
Thank you for that expert opinion, and thank you so much for watching. Be sure to click that like button, press subscribe. We'll see you next week on the red carpet.
Thank you for watching the Red Carpet Review. Proceed to click that like button and press subscribe for weekly movie reviews past and present. We'll see you soon on the red carpet.